12 Rules for Life, an Antidote for Chaos, Stoicism. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. Hey everyone, welcome back to Stoic in Your Life. Today we're not just exploring another set of rules, we're diving into 12 powerful principles that can lead you out of chaos and into a life of true purpose and stability. These aren't just tips, they are Stoic guidelines to reshape your mindset, elevate your relationships, and transform your personal growth. We'll start by discussing foundational habits like standing tall with confidence and gradually move into deeper insights like self-compassion and why it's crucial to surround yourself with people who truly uplift you. We'll also unpack why your progress matters more than comparisons and how cleaning up your own life is essential before you start fixing the world around you. These rules are your roadmap, not just for finding order but for living with meaning. Whether it's learning to speak the truth, understanding the wisdom in embracing life's simple joys, or letting kids be kids, you'll find real, practical guidance for a Stoic life. If you're ready to master these 12 Stoic principles and take charge of your life, hit that like button and let's dive in. Rule 1. Stand tall. Posture reflects confidence. When we talk about posture, we're not merely referring to standing up straight for the sake of physical appearance. We're discussing a stance that reflects your inner strength, determination, and readiness to take on life's challenges. It's no secret that how you carry yourself speaks volumes before you even say a word. Modern research shows that your posture not only influences how others perceive you, but also how you perceive yourself. When you stand tall, shoulders back, with your head high, you're not just presenting confidence to the world. You're telling yourself that you're capable of taking charge, that you're in control of your destiny. This idea is echoed in the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, which teaches us to master ourselves and how we interact with the world. As William James, the American philosopher and psychologist, once said, "Act as if what you do makes a difference. It does." Stoicism encourages the same attitude. Your posture is the outward manifestation of your inner state, and standing tall is the first step toward embodying the qualities that Stoics champion: self-discipline, courage, and resilience. Think of Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor who, despite ruling the vast Roman Empire, never lost sight of the importance of how he conducted himself. His posture, both literal and metaphorical, was a reflection of his strength and moral fortitude, even amidst the chaos of ruling. He wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This strength starts with the simple act of standing tall. In the modern world, we face constant challenges, whether at work, in relationships, or in our personal pursuits. These stresses often cause us to shrink, to slouch, both physically and mentally. And here's where posture comes into play. By standing tall, you send a message to yourself and to the world that you're unshaken by life's difficulties. You project the image of someone who can handle adversity, and that projection becomes your reality. Body language experts have confirmed that power poses like standing tall can reduce stress and increase feelings of control. So, if you want to start acting like the man who has his life together, begin by carrying yourself that way. It's the foundation of everything else you will build. Beyond just a physical stance, standing tall symbolizes how we face life's struggles. It's about adopting a posture of resilience, just like the Stoics advised. Take Epictetus, for instance, who, despite being born a slave, became one of the most influential Stoic philosophers. He never let his circumstances dictate his internal posture. He taught that while external conditions are beyond our control, our reactions to them are entirely within our power. His teaching reminds us that standing tall is not just about looking strong, but about being strong, especially in the face of hardship. As you move through your day, notice how you react to adversity. Do you let it weigh you down, causing your shoulders to hunch and your spirit to wane? Or do you maintain your posture, both physically and mentally, standing tall against whatever comes your way? As you practice this principle, you'll find that your mindset begins to shift. With your shoulders back and your head held high, you'll start to see yourself as more capable, more resilient, and more in control of your own life. In the words of Viktor Frankl, a man who endured the horrors of a concentration camp, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Your posture is one way to begin that change. In modern life, many of us are hunched over computers, stuck in the grind of daily work, and burdened by responsibilities. These physical habits can have a direct impact on how we see ourselves. It's easy to feel overwhelmed or defeated, but if you make a conscious effort to stand tall, you're taking a step toward reclaiming your sense of power. Whether you're walking into a meeting, standing in line at the grocery store, or even just sitting at your desk, remind yourself of this simple yet powerful rule. It can transform how you approach everything, from your relationships to your work, and most importantly, how you perceive your own abilities. Standing tall is also about facing challenges head-on. The Stoics teach us to embrace discomfort, to understand that hardship is an opportunity for growth. So when life presents you with difficulties, stand tall and confront them. Don't shy away or let them make you small. Instead, take a deep breath, pull your shoulders back, and face them like the man you know you can be. As Seneca once said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. And just like physical labor makes your muscles stronger, standing tall against adversity makes your spirit stronger. Let's apply this to a real-world scenario. Suppose you're facing a tough situation at work. You've been handed a project with an impossible deadline, or perhaps you're dealing with a difficult colleague. In those moments, it's tempting to let the weight of the situation drag you down. But if you take a moment to physically stand up, adjust your posture, and face the challenge with confidence, you'll find that your mind follows suit. By presenting yourself as capable and in control, you'll begin to feel that way too, and others will respond to that energy. Rule 2. Care for yourself like you'd care for others. The self-love upgrade. Now let's dive into a lesson that's easy to overlook, but essential for living a balanced and meaningful life. Rule 2 from the 12 Rules for Life is, care for yourself like you'd care for others. The self-love upgrade. Think about how you treat your best friend, a family member, or even your pet. When they're sick, you remind them to rest, you take them to the doctor, and you make sure they're eating well. Yet, when it comes to yourself, how often do you put your own needs last, neglect your well-being, or push yourself too hard without giving a second thought to the consequences? This is an issue many of us face, and it's time we addressed it head-on. As the great Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "You are a soul carrying a corpse." That means that while we often prioritize the physical needs of others, we tend to forget about our own. It's time to upgrade our self-care to reflect the love and attention we give to those we care about most. Self-care, though often misunderstood, is not about indulgence. It's not about bubble baths or pampering, though those are nice once in a while. True self-care goes much deeper. It's about making sure that you too are healthy, mentally sharp, and emotionally balanced so you can be your best self, not only for you, but for those who depend on you. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and in today's fast-paced world, it's easy to neglect yourself in favor of taking care of work, responsibilities, and others. But here's the truth. If you're constantly running on empty, how long can you sustain that before something gives? What if instead of pushing yourself to the brink, you started to care for yourself with the same compassion and dedication you offer others? Think about it. Have you ever noticed how people are more diligent about their pet's health than their own? They never miss their dog's vet appointment, yet they ignore their own medical checkups. They make sure their pets are fed with nutritious meals, but they themselves live off fast food and skip meals altogether. This paradox is common because we tend to underestimate our own worth. So, why not flip the script? Start looking after yourself the way you would your dearest friend. When you're tired, let yourself rest. When you're stressed, take a step back and breathe. When you're in pain, whether physically or emotionally, take action to heal, just like you would for someone you care about. There's a reason they tell you to put on your oxygen mask first on a plane before helping others. If you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of anyone else. Now let's look at a modern example. We live in a world where we're bombarded by endless to-do lists, deadlines, and constant digital distractions. You're juggling work, family obligations, social commitments, and personal goals. It feels like there's never enough time for anything, let alone taking time out for yourself. I want you to picture this scenario. You're driving your car every day to get from one place to another, never stopping for fuel. You push the engine to its limits until one day, you break down in the middle of nowhere. You feel frustrated and stranded. The car didn't just break down suddenly, it was worn down over time because it wasn't given the maintenance it needed. Your body and mind are just like that car. They need fuel, they need care, they need attention. If you keep pushing without tending to your own needs, eventually, you'll crash. So what stops us from caring for ourselves the way we should? Is it guilt? Fear of being seen as selfish? Maybe it's the misconception that taking time for ourselves is a luxury we can't afford in our busy lives. But let's get one thing straight. Self-care isn't selfish. It's essential. As Seneca wisely put it, if you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to what others think, you will never be rich. That quote speaks directly to this issue. You must understand that prioritizing your well-being isn't about luxury, it's about necessity. It's not about living up to others' expectations, but aligning your life with what you truly need to thrive. Ask yourself this. If you continue to neglect your health, your emotional needs, your mental rest, where will that lead you? How can you give your best if you're constantly exhausted, burned out, and struggling to get through the day? More importantly, what's the cost of not caring for yourself? The cost could be your happiness, your relationships, and even your success. By not caring for yourself, you risk losing everything you work so hard for. But by taking the time to care for yourself, you become stronger, more focused, and better equipped to handle life's inevitable challenges. Isn't that what you want? And when we talk about self-care, we're not just referring to the physical aspects, but also the emotional and mental care. Are you holding on to grudges, stress, or negative emotions that weigh you down? The Stoics remind us that part of caring for ourselves is taking control of our minds. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Holding on to things you cannot control will only drain your energy and peace of mind. Caring for yourself means practicing emotional resilience and letting go of what no longer serves you. It means filling your mind with thoughts that elevate you rather than thoughts that tear you down. One of the greatest acts of self-love is setting boundaries. This is a form of self-respect that protects your well-being. How many times have you said yes to something or someone when deep down you knew you should have said no? It's not selfish to protect your time and energy. When you prioritize your needs, you teach others to respect them too. Think of this as a balance between self-care and self-discipline, two things the Stoics heavily emphasized. It's about caring for your body, nurturing your mind, and feeding your spirit, all while maintaining the discipline to say no when necessary and making choices that serve your long-term well-being. The message here is simple. If you're not caring for yourself, you're doing a disservice not only to yourself but to everyone around you. You are capable of achieving great things, but only if you are functioning at your best. You owe it to yourself to prioritize your health, your peace, and your happiness. So, start treating yourself like someone worth caring for because, in reality, you are. As you leave today, reflect on this question. How can you better care for yourself starting today? What small changes can you make to ensure you're not only taking care of others, but also yourself? The answer to that question holds the key to unlocking a healthier, more balanced, and fulfilling life. Rule 3. Surround yourself with supportive people. The friendship filter. Let's dive into one of the most impactful rules for navigating chaos and finding meaning in life. Surround yourself with supportive people. Or as I like to call it, the friendship filter. Think for a moment about the people you interact with on a daily basis. Are they lifting you up or pulling you down? Do they challenge you to grow, or do they drain your energy? The importance of surrounding yourself with the right kind of people cannot be overstated. In fact, ancient Stoics, like Seneca, emphasized this very concept. He once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." Seneca's wisdom, though ancient, is incredibly relevant today. The company you keep directly influences your mindset, your habits, and ultimately, your life's trajectory. You may not even realize it, but the people closest to you are shaping the person you are becoming, for better or worse. Ask yourself, are the people around you helping you become the person you want to be? This is the core of the friendship filter. The relationships in your life are either supporting your growth or stunting it. Now, I'm not saying you should only hang around people who are perfect. No one is. But you need to be mindful of whether the relationships in your life are encouraging you to live in alignment with your values, goals, and potential. You see, the Stoics understood that while we cannot control everything in life, we can control who we allow into our inner circle. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And your thoughts, believe it or not, are largely influenced by those you spend the most time with. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, pessimism, or toxic behaviors, it will slowly seep into your own mindset, no matter how strong-willed you may be." Let's take a moment to reflect on modern life. We live in an age of constant connection. Social media, group chats, and networking events make it easy to interact with countless people. But are all of these connections truly meaningful? Or are they shallow, draining, or even toxic? Just because we have more access to people than ever before doesn't mean we should allow everyone into our lives. Think about how many friendships or acquaintanceships in your life are transactional, one-sided, or leave you feeling empty after every interaction. It's time to filter those out. But how do you decide who makes the cut? It all comes down to value alignment. Do the people in your life reflect the values you hold dear? Are they supportive, positive, and challenging you to be the best version of yourself? Or are they more interested in their own gain, constantly criticizing or even manipulating you? I'm reminded of a famous quote by Jim Rohn who said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." This idea is a powerful reminder that your environment is not just made up of physical spaces. It's composed of the people you surround yourself with. If you're spending time with individuals who are constantly complaining, not taking responsibility for their lives, or engaging in destructive behaviors, it's likely that you will start to pick up those same habits, whether you realize it or not. But if you surround yourself with people who are growth-oriented, empathetic, and driven, their attitudes will naturally inspire you to strive for more. Let's think of a practical modern example. Picture 2 co-workers. One is always focused on their goals, continuously seeking out new ways to improve and evolve. The other is negative, constantly complaining about their workload, their personal life, or even other colleagues. If you spend your lunch breaks and daily conversations with the second person, it's only a matter of time before their negativity starts rubbing off on you. You might find yourself thinking, maybe my job isn't that great, or life is really unfair, even though you didn't feel that way before. But if you choose to spend time with the first person, the one who is focused on self-improvement, you'll find that their mindset starts influencing you in a positive way. Their habits and behaviors will challenge you to think bigger, push harder, and be more resilient. This is the magic of the friendship filter. You get to decide which influences stay and which ones go. Now, you might be wondering, how do you start applying this friendship filter without alienating people or causing conflict? The key here is intention. You don't need to cut people out of your life abruptly or make dramatic declarations about who stays and who goes. Instead, start by gradually distancing yourself from those who drain your energy and focus on building deeper connections with people who inspire you. You'll find that the more you invest in positive relationships, the more the negative ones will naturally fade into the background. It's not about being ruthless or cold. It's about protecting your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And here's another crucial point. Being part of someone's supportive circle isn't just about receiving. You need to be willing to give too. As much as we need people who uplift us, we should strive to be that person for others. When you bring value, positivity, and support into someone's life, you create a cycle of mutual growth. This aligns perfectly with the Stoic principle of focusing on what we can control. You may not always control how people treat you, but you can control how you show up in their lives. Be the type of friend or companion who offers encouragement, challenges others to grow, and maintains integrity. As Epictetus wisely stated, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. By applying this friendship filter, you create a life that is more fulfilling, more focused, and more aligned with who you truly want to be. Think of it like a garden. If you let the weeds overrun it, the plants you care about will struggle to grow. But if you're selective about what stays and what goes, you'll cultivate an environment where everything thrives. So, as you listen today, ask yourself, who in your life is helping you grow, and who is holding you back? The answer to that question will reveal a lot about the direction you're headed in. The lesson here is clear. Surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you, and in turn, you'll start to become the best version of yourself. Rule 4. The comparison trap. Avoid comparing yourself to others. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. Whether it's at work, in our personal lives, or even scrolling through social media, comparison has a sneaky way of creeping in and making us feel like we're never good enough. But here's the reality. Comparison, more often than not, leads to nothing but frustration and self-doubt. It pulls us away from focusing on our own journey and growth, and instead, we get lost measuring ourselves against the successes, appearances, or lives of others. And for what? As the Stoics taught us, it's not the external circumstances that matter, but how we perceive and respond to them. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This craving, this endless need to be like someone else, robs us of the peace that comes from embracing who we truly are and what we have. Think about modern life for a moment. Social media has amplified this comparison trap in ways that the ancient Stoics could never have imagined. You see your friend's new car, someone else's vacation photos, a colleague's promotion, or a stranger's seemingly perfect life, and suddenly, you feel inadequate. You begin to think, why am I not achieving the same things? Or, what am I doing wrong? But here's the truth. What you're seeing is only the highlight reel of someone else's life. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes struggles to someone else's polished final product, and that's not a fair comparison at all. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful Stoic philosophers and a Roman emperor, would remind us, "Look well into thyself. There's a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." Instead of looking outward for validation or measuring your worth based on others, turn inward. Focus on your strengths, your journey, and your progress. The comparison trap is dangerous because it often stems from insecurity or the belief that we aren't enough. This mindset keeps us stuck, constantly seeking external validation, when in reality, the only comparison that matters is who you were yesterday versus who you are today. Epictetus, a former slave-turned-Stoic philosopher, advised, "First say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do." This means you are in control of your growth, your actions, and your destiny. Comparing yourself to others strips you of that power because you're trying to play someone else's game. And in doing so, you'll always feel like you're losing. But when you focus on your path, your potential, and your unique abilities, you start to gain clarity, confidence, and purpose. Let's take a moment to talk about the importance of perspective. In the modern world, success is often measured in material terms: how much money you make, how big your house is, or how far up the corporate ladder you've climbed. But Stoicism teaches us that true success is not about these external markers. It's about inner contentment and mastery over yourself. When you compare yourself to others, you're essentially saying that their life, their values, and their definition of success should also be yours. But how can that be true when your journey, your challenges, and your aspirations are completely different from theirs? As the Stoics emphasized, control what you can and let go of what you cannot. You cannot control what others do, achieve, or possess, but you can control how you react to it. Now let's bring this into a relatable story from everyday life. Picture a man who works tirelessly at his job, giving his best effort day in and day out. He's content with his progress and feels like he's on the right path. But then, he hears that a colleague, who started after him, just got promoted. Immediately, feelings of jealousy and inadequacy flood his mind. He starts questioning his own abilities and worth, even though nothing about his work or his path has changed. This is the comparison trap at work, and it happens to all of us. But what if, instead of focusing on what someone else has achieved, he took a step back and reminded himself of his own progress, strengths, and unique journey? What if he used this as an opportunity to reflect on what he could improve in his life, not by comparing himself to someone else, but by comparing himself to who he was last year, or even last week? The Stoics believed in focusing on what is within our control, and this applies perfectly to overcoming the comparison trap. You cannot control someone else's success, but you can control how you perceive your own. When you stop looking at others as the benchmark for your life and start focusing on being the best version of yourself, you'll find a sense of freedom and peace that is far more rewarding than any external validation. Seneca's words hold true here. The greatest wealth is a poverty of desires. When you stop desiring to have what others have or to be like others, you become wealthy in spirit and contentment. So, how can you start applying this rule to your daily life? First, take a moment to recognize when you're falling into the comparison trap. Acknowledge those feelings, but don't let them dictate your self-worth. Second, shift your focus to your own journey. What are the things you've accomplished? What personal goals are you working towards, and how can you improve them? Instead of looking outward for validation, look inward. Third, practice gratitude for where you are right now. As Marcus Aurelius said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. By cultivating gratitude and focusing on your own path, you'll find that your thoughts shift from lack to abundance, from envy to contentment. The comparison trap is one of the most destructive forces in our modern world, but it's also one of the most avoidable. The Stoics provided a timeless solution. Focus on yourself, your growth, and your inner world. Comparing yourself to others only leads to dissatisfaction, but when you focus on being better than who you were yesterday, you unlock your true potential. So, the next time you find yourself looking at someone else's success or life, ask yourself, how can I improve my own life, not based on others, but based on my own journey? This question is the key to avoiding the comparison trap and living a life of fulfillment and purpose. Thank you for being part of today's video. Before we wrap up, I want to sincerely thank you for your participation in our community. If you're new here, feel free to share your thoughts or simply comment, I am a newbie. If you've been around for a while, comment, I am a Stoic. Your interaction is not only appreciated but is a huge source of motivation for us. Let's continue this journey together, shall we? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming videos. Stay strong, stay resilient, and let's keep growing together. Rule 5. Set boundaries with your kids. Set boundaries with your kids is a vital lesson not only for raising children, but also for cultivating a healthy relationship based on mutual respect, responsibility, and understanding. It's easy in today's world, where the line between being a parent and being a friend gets blurred, to lose sight of the importance of boundaries. Setting boundaries isn't about limiting your child's freedom or shutting them down when they express themselves. It's about teaching them how to navigate life's challenges, understand consequences, and develop self-discipline. The Stoics, known for their focus on personal responsibility and self-control, understood that structure is necessary for growth. As Seneca wisely said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And in the context of parenting, this means helping your children learn to master themselves through clear expectations and boundaries. In our modern world, there's a tendency for parents to fear setting boundaries because they don't want to seem too strict or authoritarian. Some parents believe that constantly saying no will harm a child's self-esteem or make them feel unloved. But that's where the misunderstanding lies. Boundaries, when set with love and respect, actually provide children with a sense of security. They know what to expect and what is expected of them. Without boundaries, children can feel lost, overwhelmed by the freedom they aren't ready to handle, or confused about the consequences of their actions. Boundaries provide them with the tools they need to develop emotional resilience and self-regulation. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." In the same way, parents should focus less on whether they are being too strict or too lenient, and more on being the kind of role model that teaches children how to handle the world with both compassion and discipline. Take, for example, a parent who struggles to set limits on screen time for their child. At first, it seems easier to let the child continue playing video games or watching shows because the immediate result is a happy, quiet child. But over time, without clear boundaries, this unrestricted screen time can lead to issues with focus, behavior, and even sleep patterns. Now contrast that with a parent who explains the reasons behind limiting screen time and enforces those limits consistently. The child learns that while video games and TV are fun, they aren't the most important things in life. They learn about balance, time management, and the importance of other activities such as reading, outdoor play, or spending time with family. Isn't that what we all want for our children? To grow up understanding how to balance pleasure with responsibility? But setting boundaries with your kids isn't just about rules. It's about fostering a relationship where mutual respect thrives. When parents set clear, consistent boundaries, they show their children that they care enough to guide them. It's in those moments of enforcement that you build trust. Children might resist in the beginning, but deep down, they feel safer when they know someone is guiding them. And it's essential to explain the reasoning behind your rules. Instead of simply telling your child, "Because I said so," engage them in a conversation. Explain why certain behaviors are unacceptable, or why certain rules must be followed. Ask them questions like, "How do you think this rule helps you?" Or, "What do you think would happen if we didn't have this boundary?" Open-ended questions allow your child to think critically about the rules and even take ownership of them. A good modern example can be seen in the context of social media. Today's teenagers are heavily immersed in platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, which have their benefits but also pose risks such as cyberbullying, unrealistic beauty standards, and unhealthy comparisons. Setting boundaries in this realm might involve limiting social media usage or having open discussions about the content they consume. It's not about controlling every aspect of their lives, but about protecting their well-being while teaching them to make responsible decisions. You might say, "I know social media is a fun way to connect with friends, but we're setting limits to ensure it doesn't affect your self-esteem or your focus on school." This way, they understand the reasoning and aren't just left feeling like you're arbitrarily taking something away from them. In many ways, boundaries are like the rules of a game. Without them, there's chaos. But with them, there's structure, purpose, and a clear path forward. This isn't to say that boundaries are easy to enforce. Far from it. Children will often test the limits you set, and that's normal. What matters is how consistently you uphold those boundaries. Inconsistent enforcement sends mixed messages, leading to confusion and potentially even rebellion. But when boundaries are consistent and fair, children learn to respect them and, in turn, respect the person who sets them. Remember the Stoic idea that we can't control everything, but we can control how we respond to the world around us. In the same way, we cannot control every aspect of our child's life, nor should we. But we can control how we guide them through it. As Epictetus said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. As a parent, your role is not to control your child, but to prepare them to navigate life's challenges with the tools of self-discipline, respect, and responsibility. The lesson from this rule is clear. Setting boundaries with your kids is not about being overly strict or controlling. It's about giving them the structure they need to grow into responsible, resilient adults. Boundaries teach children that their actions have consequences, that life has rules, and that discipline is not a punishment, but a path to freedom. So ask yourself, what boundaries do I need to set to help my child become the best version of themselves? And remember, these boundaries, while sometimes tough to enforce, are one of the most loving things you can do for them. By setting boundaries with your children, you are preparing them for a world that requires self-control, focus, and responsibility, qualities that will serve them throughout their entire lives. Rule 6. Fix your own issues before criticizing. It's a concept that might seem simple at first glance, but it has profound implications, not only for how you approach your own personal growth, but also for how you interact with the world around you. This rule touches on an age-old human tendency. We are quick to point out the flaws in others, but hesitant to confront the ones within ourselves. Before you rush to criticize someone else's actions, behaviors, or decisions, take a moment to ask yourself, have I dealt with my own shortcomings first? This rule is about looking inward, confronting your own imperfections, and taking responsibility for your life before you cast judgment on others. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. And what better way to embody that than by focusing on improving yourself? In today's fast-paced world, we are surrounded by social media, news, and conversations that make it incredibly easy to criticize others, whether it's the choices people make, the way they live their lives, or even their personal beliefs. But often, this criticism is a distraction from our own problems, a way of shifting focus so we don't have to face the uncomfortable truth about our own unresolved issues. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This speaks directly to the heart of this rule. Instead of spending time criticizing others, look inward and embrace the humility needed to acknowledge that you too have areas in your life that need work. Only when you've put in the effort to address your own weaknesses can you truly begin to offer meaningful feedback to others. And even then, it comes from a place of understanding rather than judgment. Let's break this down further. Think about a time when you felt irritated or critical of someone else's behavior. Maybe it was a coworker who seemed lazy, a friend who was always late, or a family member who made poor financial decisions. It's easy to judge them, isn't it? But now take a step back and reflect. Have there been moments in your life when you weren't as diligent as you could have been? Times when you made questionable decisions or were less than considerate with your time or money? This isn't to excuse bad behavior or suggest you should ignore other people's flaws, but rather to remind you that we all fall short at times. As Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." The true bravery here is being willing to confront your own issues before casting a critical eye on others. There's a modern-day example of this that we can all relate to: the endless cycle of online criticism. Think about how often we see people attacking each other on social media over things like lifestyle choices, political opinions, or even personal preferences. It's as though the internet has become a breeding ground for unsolicited criticism. But how many of those critics have actually taken the time to fix their own lives before pointing fingers? It's much easier to hide behind a screen and critique someone else than to face your own shortcomings. But if we flip the script and apply Rule 6, how different would our interactions be? How much more constructive would our feedback become if we made sure our own house was in order first? The Stoics were firm believers in self-mastery. They taught that the only person you can truly control is yourself. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who practiced Stoicism daily, reminded himself in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Criticizing others without first addressing your own issues is, in a way, a form of giving up that power. It's focusing on things you cannot control, other people's behavior, instead of what you can control, your own. This is why Rule 6 is so crucial. By working on yourself first, you become a stronger, more resilient person who doesn't need to tear others down to feel good about yourself. You gain control over your own life, your own emotions, and your own actions. Now let's apply this concept to a practical scenario. Imagine you're a manager at work, and one of your team members keeps missing deadlines. Your first instinct might be to reprimand them, criticize their work ethic, or even question their commitment. But before you do that, take a moment to reflect on your own habits. Have you been setting a good example with your time management? Are there areas where you too have fallen behind or failed to meet expectations? By asking yourself these questions first, you approach the situation with empathy and understanding, rather than just criticism. This doesn't mean you avoid addressing the issue. It means you do so in a way that's constructive, after ensuring that you've held yourself to the same standards. Open-ended questions are a powerful tool in this process of self-reflection. Ask yourself, what issues have I neglected in my own life that might be affecting how I see others? Are there areas where I've been overly critical without first addressing my own faults? By engaging in this kind of introspection, you start to peel back the layers of self-deception and begin to see that much of the criticism we direct outward is often a reflection of unresolved issues within ourselves. The more we understand this, the more we realize that self-improvement isn't just a personal journey. It's a way to positively influence those around us as well. When we fix our own issues first, we become role models for others. Instead of simply telling someone what they're doing wrong, we can show them through our actions what it looks like to live with integrity and self-discipline. It's the difference between being a critic and being a leader. As we improve ourselves, we naturally inspire others to do the same, without needing to resort to harsh judgments or criticism. Think about how different your relationships might be if you focused on personal growth instead of picking apart the flaws of those around you. How would that change your interactions at work, in your friendships, or with your family? At the heart of this rule is the idea of personal accountability. It's about owning your mistakes, working to fix them, and resisting the urge to point out the flaws in others until you've taken care of your own. This is where true growth happens, not in tearing others down, but in building yourself up. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Before you criticize anyone else, ask yourself if you've taken the time to fix your own issues first. By doing so, you not only improve your own life, but also foster healthier, more productive relationships with those around you. The next time you feel the urge to criticize someone, take a pause, reflect on your own journey, and remember the wisdom of the Stoics. Look well into thyself, as Marcus Aurelius advised, and you'll find that the path to self-improvement is the first and most important step toward helping others. Rule 7. Choose meaning over quick fixes. In today's world, everything seems designed for instant gratification. Fast food, next-day delivery, quick online searches, and endless social media scrolling. We've become conditioned to expect results immediately, but at what cost? Choosing quick fixes over meaningful long-term growth often leaves us feeling unfulfilled. True progress, both in life and in personal development, takes time, effort, and patience. As the great Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." This quote speaks to the heart of our struggle. Too often we avoid the meaningful path because it seems harder, opting for the easier, quicker route. But real growth, the kind that brings true fulfillment, is never achieved overnight. It requires deliberate choices, discipline, and the willingness to embrace the challenges along the way. When we talk about choosing meaning, what we are really discussing is the concept of investing in things that matter, even when they don't give immediate rewards. Think about the things in your life that have truly brought you a sense of accomplishment or purpose. Was it the shortcut you took, or was it the hard work you put into something meaningful? The path to meaning is often difficult because it demands long-term commitment and often comes with sacrifice. However, it is this very difficulty that makes the results so rewarding. The Stoics believed that we should focus not on what is easy or pleasurable in the short term, but on what leads to a virtuous and fulfilled life. Epictetus reminded us of this when he said, "No great thing is created suddenly." It's a message that endures. Anything worth achieving requires time and perseverance. Let's bring this into modern life. We live in an age where there's a quick fix for almost everything. Feeling down? Scroll through social media for a quick dopamine hit. Struggling with a project? Search for shortcuts online. Feeling disconnected? Send a quick text or post a status update. But how often do these quick fixes actually solve the underlying problem? More often than not, they're just temporary distractions that pull us further away from what really matters. We're drawn to the instant satisfaction of these easy solutions, but they rarely provide lasting fulfillment. If we want to find true meaning, we need to shift our focus from short-term pleasure to long-term growth. The pursuit of meaning often means delaying gratification, whether that's putting in the extra hours at work to achieve a long-term goal or dedicating time to building a relationship rather than relying on surface-level interactions. Let's take a practical example. Fitness. Many people start exercising with the goal of losing weight or building muscle quickly, and they become frustrated when they don't see immediate results. So, they turn to fad diets, extreme workouts, or even unhealthy habits just to speed up the process. But those quick fixes are rarely sustainable. The real path to lasting fitness and health is slow, steady, and sometimes frustrating. It's about making daily choices, what you eat, how you move, how you rest, that accumulate over time. The same applies to mental and emotional fitness. You can't expect to overcome anxiety, stress, or dissatisfaction overnight. It's a process that requires self-reflection, the development of healthy habits, and patience. As Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The struggles we face aren't meant to be avoided through quick fixes. They're the very things that help us grow stronger and more capable if we choose the path of meaning. But why do we keep falling for the allure of quick fixes? The answer lies in our culture of immediacy. Everything around us promises instant results, and we've been conditioned to believe that if something takes too long or requires too much effort, it's not worth it. Yet deep down, we know that the most meaningful things in life take time. A successful career isn't built overnight. A fulfilling relationship isn't created through shortcuts. Personal growth doesn't happen by accident. It's in the consistent, sometimes difficult daily efforts that we find true success and satisfaction. This is what it means to choose meaning over quick fixes. Let's explore another area where this rule applies: relationships. In the digital age, connections are easier to form than ever before. We can swipe left or right, send a quick message, or join an online community. But how many of these connections truly lead to deep, meaningful relationships? Quick fixes in relationships often result in shallow interactions, leaving us feeling more disconnected in the long run. Real relationships, whether friendships, romantic partnerships, or family bonds, require time, effort, and patience. They demand vulnerability, honest communication, and the willingness to work through challenges together. Seneca once wrote, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood." This kind of understanding doesn't happen in a flash. It takes time to cultivate, and that's why it's so valuable. So what does choosing meaning look like in your life? It means prioritizing what truly matters over what feels good in the moment. It's about making choices today that align with the person you want to become in the future. Ask yourself, am I investing my time and energy in things that bring me long-term satisfaction? Or am I constantly looking for the easy way out? This question is important because it forces us to evaluate the difference between what we want right now and what we want in the long term. The Stoics taught that by focusing on the things within our control, we can find peace and fulfillment. And what's in our control? Our choices. Every day you have the opportunity to choose meaning over quick fixes. This is not to say that quick fixes don't have their place. Sometimes a temporary solution is necessary to get through a tough situation. But if we constantly rely on them, we miss out on the deeper rewards that come from enduring the journey. The lesson here is simple, but profound. Choose the path that leads to growth, even if it's more difficult. In the end, the easy way out will always lead you in circles, while the meaningful path, though challenging, will lead you to a life of purpose and fulfillment. So the next time you're faced with a choice, ask yourself, am I looking for a quick fix, or am I choosing what will truly matter in the long run? The answer to that question can change the course of your life, guiding you away from temporary pleasures and toward a deeper, more meaningful existence. Rule 8. Honesty is tough, but lies are worse. Honesty. It's one of those virtues we all talk about, but how often do we really practice it in its fullest sense? Rule 8. Honesty is tough, but lies are worse. Is a hard truth we often overlook. We live in a world where white lies, half-truths, and little omissions are normalized. We tell ourselves that a small lie won't hurt anyone, or that bending the truth makes things easier for everyone involved. But does it really? The Stoics were firm believers in the power of truth and the damage that dishonesty can cause, both to others and to ourselves. As Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, wisely said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This statement may sound simple, but applying it in daily life is often anything but. Honesty demands courage, and in many situations, it feels easier to take the path of least resistance. But let's be clear about one thing. While honesty can be tough, lies always make things worse. Lies create a web that entangles not just the person being lied to, but the one who tells the lie. The weight of dishonesty builds up over time, leading to broken trust, fractured relationships, and an internal sense of guilt or shame that's hard to shake. Think about it. How many times have you told a lie and felt relieved for a moment, only to realize later that the consequences were far more complicated than if you had simply told the truth? Lies have a way of snowballing. You tell one, and suddenly you're forced to tell another to cover up the first, and before you know it, you're trapped in a web of deceit that feels impossible to escape. On the other hand, honesty, while often uncomfortable in the moment, frees you. When you choose to speak the truth, even when it's difficult, you're choosing integrity. You're standing up for what is right and building a foundation of trust that can withstand the challenges life throws at you. But why do we avoid honesty so often? Is it because we fear the consequences? Do we worry about hurting someone's feelings? Or are we afraid of how others will perceive us? These are valid concerns, but let's not forget what Epictetus taught us. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. This is especially true when it comes to self-deception. Sometimes we lie to others because we're not being honest with ourselves. We're avoiding truths about our own shortcomings, failures, or emotions, and by projecting those lies onto others, we think we can escape the discomfort. Let's bring this idea into modern life. Think of a situation at work where you were asked to give feedback on a colleague's performance. Maybe the truth was that their work wasn't up to standard, but instead of being honest, you sugar-coated your feedback to avoid an awkward conversation. In the moment, it feels easier to offer praise or downplay the issue. But what happens when the same mistakes keep repeating because the colleague never got the honest feedback they needed to improve? That avoidance not only affects your colleague's growth but can also create frustration in the long run, both for you and for them. Now compare that to a situation where you decide to be honest, offering constructive feedback with kindness and tact. Sure, it might create some discomfort in the short term, but in the long term, it fosters growth, trust, and a healthier working relationship. So here's the question. When you're faced with a difficult truth, do you choose to confront it head-on, or do you shy away from it, hoping to spare yourself or others from discomfort? Honesty is not about being harsh or brutal. It's about being real. It's about recognizing that the people in your life, including yourself, deserve the truth, even when it's hard. Take relationships, for example. If you're in a romantic relationship or even a close friendship, how often do small lies get told to avoid conflict? Maybe you pretend you're okay with something when you're not. Maybe you hide your true feelings because you don't want to seem vulnerable. But over time, those small lies erode the foundation of the relationship. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "The highest duty and the highest proof of love is trust." Trust is built on honesty, and without it, relationships crumble. When you choose to lie, even with the intention of protecting someone's feelings, you're ultimately undermining that trust. But when you choose to be honest, you give the other person the chance to truly know you, to understand your perspective, and to build a deeper connection based on truth. We also need to talk about the internal impact of dishonesty. When you lie, you create a split between who you are and who you pretend to be. This gap creates cognitive dissonance where your actions and your beliefs are in conflict. Over time, this internal conflict erodes your sense of self. You begin to feel like a fraud, not just to others, but to yourself. The more lies you tell, the more you drift away from the person you truly are. Honesty, on the other hand, aligns your actions with your values. It gives you the courage to face your flaws and your mistakes and to grow from them. And here's the thing, people respect honesty. Even if the truth is hard to hear, they will appreciate your integrity and the fact that you were willing to be real with them. So how can we start practicing more honesty in our daily lives? First, take a moment to reflect on the areas where you tend to avoid the truth. Is it in your relationships, at work, or even with yourself? Next, challenge yourself to choose honesty the next time you're faced with a difficult conversation. It won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Ask yourself, am I willing to deal with temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term trust and growth? Remember, lies may offer a quick escape, but they trap you in the long run. Honesty, though tough, sets you free. The lesson here is clear. Choose truth, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's the path to a life of integrity, trust, and inner peace. As you move forward, embrace the Stoic wisdom that honesty, while difficult, is always the better choice. Lies may seem like an easier way out, but in the end, they lead to greater problems. By choosing truth, you're choosing strength, freedom, and the chance to live in alignment with who you truly are. If you've made it this far, you're truly embracing the path of Stoic wisdom. Drop a comment saying, "I am ready for change," to show you're committed to mastering these 12 rules for life. Stay tuned. Your journey to inner strength and clarity has only just begun. Rule 9. Be open to learning from everyone. Let's dive into Rule 9. Be open to learning from everyone. A principle that's often overlooked, but holds immense power for personal growth and success. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to believe that we already know enough, that our experiences and education have equipped us with all the knowledge we need to navigate life. But here's the truth. The moment you stop being open to learning, you stop growing. The Stoics, who lived thousands of years ago, understood this concept deeply. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. That quote alone captures the essence of this rule. The key to self-improvement and wisdom is humility, the recognition that no matter how much we know, there is always more to learn, and the people around us, no matter their status or experience, can offer us valuable lessons if we are willing to listen. When you think about learning, you might immediately picture formal education, teachers, books, lectures. But being open to learning from everyone means stepping beyond that structured environment. It's about recognizing that every person you encounter, regardless of who they are, has something to teach you. It could be a colleague at work, the barista who makes your morning coffee, or even a stranger you exchange a few words with on the street. Each interaction offers a new perspective, a new idea, or a challenge to your existing beliefs. But are we always paying attention? Or are we too quick to dismiss people because we think they don't have anything to offer us? Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, once said, "While we teach, we learn," meaning that even in situations where we think we are the expert, we can still learn by engaging with others. So, let me ask you this. Are you truly open to learning from everyone, or are you limiting yourself by assuming you already know enough? Let's look at a modern example. Think about your workplace. You might be in a leadership position, managing a team or a department. It's easy to assume that because you're the boss, you should be the one teaching others. But what if you flipped that mindset and approached your team with the intention of learning from them? What if instead of giving orders or instructions, you started asking questions and truly listening to their input? You might discover that the junior employee you barely noticed has a brilliant idea that could revolutionize how your team works. Or perhaps you'll learn something about team dynamics that hadn't crossed your mind. The point is, when you remain open to learning from everyone, even those who might seem less experienced or knowledgeable, you unlock new possibilities for growth and innovation. The same principle applies in our personal lives. How many times have you dismissed advice from someone because you didn't think they were qualified to give it? Maybe it was a younger person, a family member, or someone you didn't consider to be on your level. But wisdom isn't always tied to age or status. Everyone's life experiences are unique, and those experiences shape their perspectives in ways that can offer you valuable insights. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting." What he meant is that our minds are flexible and capable of learning from every obstacle or challenge we face, and often, those challenges are revealed to us through other people. But if we aren't open to learning from them, we miss out on the growth that comes from those obstacles. Let's take another everyday example: parenting. Many parents, especially new ones, feel pressure to have all the answers. They think they should know how to handle every situation with their children. But some of the most valuable lessons in parenting don't come from books or experts. They come from the children themselves. Children have a way of seeing the world with fresh eyes, untainted by the biases and assumptions that we accumulate as adults. If you're open to learning from them, they can teach you about patience, creativity, and unconditional love. But if you approach parenting with the mindset that you already know everything, you close yourself off to those lessons. So I ask you, in what areas of your life are you assuming you already know enough? And how might your life change if you opened yourself up to learning from those around you? Being open to learning from everyone also means letting go of your ego. It means admitting that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. In fact, that's where growth happens. When you embrace the idea that you can learn from anyone, whether they're older or younger, more experienced or less experienced, you create a mindset of curiosity rather than judgment. This curiosity allows you to approach each interaction with a sense of wonder, asking yourself, what can I learn from this person? The Stoics believed that wisdom comes from understanding that we are all students in life, continuously learning, evolving, and adapting. In today's world, where information is constantly at our fingertips, it's tempting to think that we can simply Google the answers to any question we have. But being open to learning from everyone goes beyond information. It's about human connection, about understanding different perspectives, and about growing emotionally and intellectually by engaging with the people around us. So the next time you're in a conversation, whether it's with a friend, a coworker, or even someone you've just met, try to approach it with an open mind. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this person's experiences? What unique perspective are they offering that I hadn't considered before? By doing this, you'll not only deepen your relationships but also expand your understanding of the world. At the core of this rule is the idea that no one is too insignificant to teach us something. Everyone we meet has a story, an experience, or a piece of wisdom that can contribute to our own growth. But we have to be willing to listen, to set aside our assumptions, and to approach each person with a genuine desire to learn. And here's the lesson. The more open you are to learning from others, the more you will grow, both in wisdom and in character. The Stoics understood that life is a continuous journey of learning, and the moment you think you've learned it all is the moment you stop growing. So, as you go through your day, keep your mind open, stay curious, and remember that every person you encounter has something valuable to teach you. Whether it's a stranger, a colleague, or a loved one, their unique experiences can help you see the world in new and enriching ways. Rule 10. Be clear and direct in your speech. This is Rule 10 from the 12 Rules for Life, and while it might seem simple, the implications of this principle run deep. In a world where communication is constant and complex, clarity and directness are often sacrificed for the sake of avoiding discomfort or maintaining a superficial harmony. Yet clear and direct speech is essential not just for effective communication, but for building trust, fostering respect, and living with integrity. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This idea aligns perfectly with this rule because it highlights how important it is to speak truthfully and with precision. When we fail to communicate clearly, we leave room for misunderstanding, confusion, and sometimes mistrust. So today, let's unpack why being clear and direct in your speech is crucial, and how this simple practice can transform both your personal and professional life. We've all been in situations where communication was muddled. Perhaps it was a meeting at work where a colleague danced around the real issue, leaving everyone uncertain about what action to take. Or maybe it was a conversation with a friend who hinted at their feelings instead of just saying what they meant. These moments leave us frustrated, confused, and unsure of how to move forward. Why is it so hard for us to say exactly what we mean? Sometimes it's because we want to avoid confrontation. Other times, we worry about hurting someone's feelings. And then there are moments when we're not entirely clear in our own minds about what we want to say, so we fumble with our words. But here's the truth. When we fail to be clear and direct, we're not sparing others discomfort. We're prolonging it. We are making it harder for them to understand us, to trust us, and to respond appropriately. As Epictetus said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." This is a reminder that before we speak, we need to understand not only what we want to communicate, but also how to do so with clarity. Let's bring this into the context of modern life. Think about how often we use vague language in emails, texts, or even face-to-face conversations. Instead of saying, "I need this report by Friday," we soften it with, "If it's not too much trouble, could you maybe get the report to me by the end of the week?" While the second version might seem more polite, it introduces ambiguity. The person on the receiving end might think, "Is Friday a hard deadline or is there some flexibility?" Now, instead of a clear instruction, you've created uncertainty. In contrast, when you are clear and direct, you remove that uncertainty. "I need this report by Friday" leaves no room for confusion, and while it might feel less gentle, it is far more effective. Being direct doesn't mean being harsh. It means being honest and efficient in your communication. And efficiency, as we know, saves time, energy, and frustration in both professional and personal relationships. Now, why do we often avoid being direct? The answer is usually tied to our fear of conflict. We worry that by being straightforward we'll come across as rude or abrasive. But the truth is, clarity in speech actually reduces the potential for conflict. When you say exactly what you mean, you eliminate the chances of misunderstanding, which is often where conflicts begin. For example, consider a situation where a couple is planning their weekend. One person says, "Maybe we could go to the movies," when what they really mean is, "I want to spend time with you this weekend, and going to the movies is something I'd enjoy." The indirectness of the first statement leaves room for misinterpretation. The partner might respond with, "I'm not really in the mood for a movie," and suddenly there's frustration on both sides because the true desire to spend time together wasn't communicated clearly. In contrast, if the first person had been direct, saying something like, "I'd love to spend time together this weekend. How about we see a movie?" The conversation would be clearer, and both people would be on the same page. There's another aspect of clear and direct speech that we need to consider: the impact it has on our own sense of self and integrity. When you are clear in your communication, you are also clear with yourself. You know what you want, and you express it without hesitation. This creates a sense of alignment between your thoughts and your actions. It eliminates the internal dissonance that often comes with vague or unclear speech. As Seneca said, "Say what we feel, not what we ought to say." This wisdom reminds us that clear speech isn't just about efficiency, it's about living honestly and authentically. When you speak with clarity, you are presenting your true self to the world, without hiding behind half-truths or euphemisms. Clear and direct speech also strengthens relationships. Whether in the workplace or in personal life, people respect those who say what they mean. Think about the leaders you admire. Are they the ones who beat around the bush, or are they the ones who communicate clearly, leaving no doubt about their intentions or expectations? The answer is obvious. Leaders who are clear in their speech inspire confidence because they remove uncertainty. You know where you stand with them, and that makes it easier to trust them. The same goes for personal relationships. When you are clear with your friends, family, or partner, you build a foundation of trust because they know you're being honest with them. They don't have to guess at your intentions or wonder what you really mean. But how can we become better at clear and direct communication? It starts with self-awareness. Before you speak, ask yourself, what is the main point I want to get across? What is the clearest way to say it? And most importantly, am I avoiding being direct because I'm afraid of how the other person will react? If the answer is yes, recognize that while their reaction might be uncomfortable in the moment, the long-term benefits of clear communication far outweigh the temporary discomfort. Another practice is to pause before speaking. We often rush into conversations without thinking through what we want to say. By taking a brief pause, we can clarify our thoughts and choose the most direct way to express them. The lesson from Rule 10 is simple but powerful. Clear and direct communication is the foundation of trust, efficiency, and integrity. When we are clear in our speech, we remove ambiguity, build stronger relationships, and align our words with our values. It's not always easy, especially in a world that often encourages us to soften our language to avoid discomfort, but the rewards of speaking clearly and directly are immense. So the next time you find yourself in a conversation, whether it's with a coworker, a friend, or a loved one, take a moment to ask yourself, am I being as clear and direct as I could be? If not, take a breath, gather your thoughts, and say what you mean. You'll be surprised at how much smoother your interactions become when you remove the guesswork from communication. Rule 11. Let children take risks to build strength. Let's dive into Rule 11. Let children take risks to build strength. A powerful concept not just for parents but for anyone responsible for nurturing and guiding the growth of others. We often think of protecting children as our most important duty, keeping them safe, shielding them from harm, making sure they don't get hurt. But what if I told you that by being overly protective, you could be doing more harm than good? The Stoics, who were masters of resilience and self-discipline, understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This perfectly aligns with the idea that challenges and risks are not obstacles to be avoided, but opportunities for growth. When children are allowed to take risks, they build the mental and emotional strength needed to navigate the world with confidence. They learn through experience, not by being told, and this hands-on learning is what helps them grow into strong, capable adults. In today's world, we're seeing more and more examples of what's been termed helicopter parenting, a style of parenting where adults hover over their children, ready to swoop in and solve every problem, protect them from every failure, and smooth out every bump in the road. On the surface, this seems like a caring approach, but in reality, it deprives children of the essential life experiences that help them develop resilience. How can a child learn to stand on their own if they've never had to pick themselves up after a fall? How can they handle disappointment or frustration if they've never been allowed to fail in a safe environment? These are critical life skills, and they are best learned through risk-taking. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, put it simply, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are." In other words, it's through facing challenges that we truly discover our strengths. And this is as true for children as it is for adults. Think about modern playgrounds for a moment. They've become increasingly sanitized, with rubberized surfaces, soft barriers, and carefully engineered equipment to minimize risk. While safety is important, have we gone too far? Are we removing the very opportunities children need to learn how to handle risk? If a child never climbs a tree because we're afraid they'll fall, they never learn the joy of reaching new heights, or how to safely navigate the risks that come with it. If they never experience a skinned knee or a bruised elbow, how will they develop the toughness and problem-solving skills that will serve them throughout life? Sure, protecting children from harm seems noble, but we must ask ourselves, at what point does protection become a barrier to their growth? There's a modern story that illustrates this well. Consider the example of a young boy who loved to skateboard. His parents were understandably concerned. Skateboarding comes with plenty of risks, falls, scrapes, and even broken bones. They had two choices. They could forbid him from skateboarding altogether, ensuring his safety but robbing him of the chance to pursue something he was passionate about. Or they could let him take the risks, knowing he might get hurt, but trusting that he would learn how to handle those challenges. They chose the latter, and yes, the boy did fall many times. He skinned his knees, bruised his arms, and occasionally came home with a tear in his eyes. But over time, he learned balance, agility, and how to assess and manage risks. More importantly, he built confidence not just in his skateboarding skills, but in his ability to face challenges head-on and come out stronger. Now, this doesn't mean throwing children into dangerous situations or ignoring real risks. It's about calculated risks, allowing children to stretch their boundaries in a controlled, safe environment. It's about letting them try, fail, and learn from that failure, rather than swooping in to fix things before they have a chance to figure it out for themselves. There's a Stoic principle called amor fati, which means love of fate. It's the idea that we should embrace everything that happens to us, good or bad, because it's all part of our journey toward growth. When we allow children to take risks, we're teaching them to embrace their own amor fati, to see challenges not as something to be feared, but as something to be embraced because they help shape who they are becoming. So how can we, as parents, educators, or even mentors, apply this rule in modern life? The first step is recognizing that children are stronger and more capable than we often give them credit for. They are naturally resilient, but that resilience needs to be nurtured through experience, not overprotection. Next time a child is faced with a challenge, whether it's climbing a bit higher on the playground, attempting a difficult math problem, or navigating a social conflict, resist the urge to step in immediately. Ask yourself, is this a situation where they can learn something valuable from the experience even if they fail? More often than not, the answer will be yes, and when they do fail, instead of rescuing them, guide them through the process of understanding what went wrong and how they can try again. At the heart of Rule 11 is a lesson not just for children but for all of us. Growth requires risk. There is no progress without challenge, and there is no strength without struggle. When we take risks, we open ourselves up to failure. Yes, but we also open ourselves up to success, growth, and the development of resilience. For children, taking risks is not just about physical challenges like skateboarding or climbing trees. It's about emotional and intellectual risks too. It's about trying something new, standing up for what they believe in, and learning how to handle disappointment without giving up. As adults, our role is not to eliminate risks from their lives, but to help them navigate those risks with courage and wisdom. The message of Rule 11 is clear. Let children take risks, because it is through those risks that they build strength, both physically and mentally. The same holds true for us as adults. Whether we're guiding the younger generation or continuing our own journey of self-improvement, we must remember that it's the challenges we face, the risks we take, and the obstacles we overcome that make us stronger. As Seneca wisely said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." So next time you're faced with a decision about whether to protect a child from risk or let them face it, remember that it's the friction, the skinned knees, the failed attempts, the emotional struggles, that polishes them into the strong, resilient adults they are meant to become. Rule 12. Find joy in simple moments. Let's talk about something we often overlook in our busy, fast-paced lives. Rule 12. Find joy in simple moments. In a world that constantly pushes us to chase bigger and better things, it's easy to forget that true happiness doesn't come from grand achievements or material possessions. It comes from the small, everyday moments that we often take for granted. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, understood this well. He once wrote, "Dwell on the beauty of life, watch the stars, and see yourself running with them." This quote perfectly captures the essence of this rule, the ability to appreciate the small, beautiful details of life, whether it's the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of birds chirping in the morning, or the simple act of sharing a meal with loved ones. These are the moments where true contentment lies. When we constantly strive for the next big thing, whether it's a promotion, a new car, or some other milestone, we're always focused on the future. And while it's important to have goals, there's a danger in letting them consume you to the point that you forget to live in the present. How many times have you said to yourself, "I'll be happy when..." It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that happiness is something you'll reach once you've checked off a certain box, but by doing that, you miss the joy that's right in front of you. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, advised, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." So let me ask you, are you so focused on what's next that you're missing the simple joys of today? Take a moment to think about the last time you truly felt at peace. Was it during a big, life-changing event, or was it in a quiet, ordinary moment? Maybe it was sipping your morning coffee while watching the sunrise, or perhaps it was the sound of laughter from your children playing in the backyard. These are the moments that ground us, that remind us of what life is really about. And yet, they often slip by unnoticed because we're too distracted by what we think we should be doing. The irony is that while we chase after more, we overlook the fact that we already have so much. The Stoics would remind us that the key to a fulfilled life isn't in acquiring more, but in learning to appreciate what we already have. Let's put this into the context of modern life. Think about social media and how it constantly shows us the highlight reels of other people's lives, fancy vacations, luxury purchases, big accomplishments. It's easy to get caught up in comparison, feeling like you're not doing enough, or that you need to keep striving for more to measure up. But the truth is, those moments you see online are just a tiny, curated snapshot of someone else's life. What you don't see are the simple, everyday moments that make up the majority of their time. And those moments, the ones that aren't broadcast for the world to see, are often the ones that bring the most peace and joy. The Stoics taught us the value of presence, of being fully aware in each moment and recognizing the beauty in the mundane. Epictetus said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." This means that it's not what happens to us that determines our happiness, but how we perceive and appreciate those events. You don't need a fancy vacation to feel joy. You don't need a big house or a high-powered job to find fulfillment. What you need is the ability to be present, to be grateful for the simple things, and to stop looking for happiness in places where it doesn't reside. Here's a story to illustrate this point. There was a man who worked long hours in a high-stress job, constantly chasing success and recognition. He rarely had time for his family, always promising that once he hit his next goal, he'd slow down and enjoy life more. But those milestones kept moving, and so did he. One day, he took a rare moment to sit outside in his garden with his young daughter. They spent the afternoon laughing, picking flowers, and simply being together. For the first time in a long while, he felt a deep sense of contentment. It wasn't because of any achievement or material gain. It was because he allowed himself to be fully present in that simple moment. That day, he realized that joy doesn't come from what he was chasing. It comes from appreciating what's already there. So, how can we start finding joy in the simple moments of our own lives? The first step is mindfulness, being aware of where you are and what's around you. Instead of rushing through your day, take a few moments to pause and really notice what's happening. It could be the taste of your food, the sound of the wind, or the smile of a stranger. These are the small moments that bring life into focus. Next, practice gratitude. It's easy to get caught up in what we don't have, but when we take time to reflect on what we do have, we shift our perspective. The act of consciously appreciating the little things in life can transform how we experience our daily routines. You might wonder, what's the point of focusing on the small things when there's so much to achieve in life? The point is balance. Of course, it's important to have goals and ambitions, but it's equally important to remember that life is happening right now, not just in the future when those goals are met. The simple moments are what make up the majority of our time. If we only look to the future for happiness, we'll miss out on the richness of the present. As the poet Mary Oliver wrote, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" The answer doesn't need to be something grand or extraordinary. Often, it's in the little moments that our wild and precious life truly shines. Life is full of challenges, and it's easy to get caught up in the chaos. But the Stoics remind us that peace and happiness are found not in changing our external circumstances, but in changing how we view them. So the next time you're feeling overwhelmed or like you need something more to be happy, pause, take a breath, look around, ask yourself, what small moment can I appreciate right now? The answer might surprise you, and in that moment of stillness and gratitude, you'll find a kind of joy that no external achievement can ever match. The lesson here is simple but profound. Find joy in the simple moments, because those moments are the foundation of a fulfilled life. By being present, practicing gratitude, and letting go of the constant chase for more, you'll discover that happiness has been right in front of you all along. And there you have it, the 12 rules for life that can truly guide you from chaos to a life filled with meaning, balance, and purpose. Each of these principles, inspired by Stoicism, reminds us to stand tall, embrace discomfort, and find joy in the everyday moments. The journey toward self-improvement and fulfillment isn't about quick fixes or grand gestures. It's about being mindful of how we live each day and how we respond to the world around us. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life. And make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos that will continue to guide you toward living a life of purpose and inner strength. Until next time, keep striving to be the best version of yourself. And remember, life's greatest joys often come in the simplest moments.